Smoke, puff, puff, pass that vibe. Stone apes get high, puff, puff, we like puff, puff, pass that vibe. Stone apes get high, puff, puff, we like puff, puff.
All right. Puff, puff, pass the vibes. What's happening?
Smoking, man. You know the vibes, enjoying having a sophisticated conversation with, the best gentleman I know in the space right now. And we're having another episode, man.
I'm trying to get on with life while talking to you boys. It's fucking pretty sick.
Yeah, man. We got Jimmy back on the show. Jimmy's going to talk to us a little bit about today's topic, behavioral finance and NFTs. Jimmy, I guess let's start out by giving us a little background. I know you work in finance in real life.
Yeah, of course. First of all, it's good to be back, boys. I've been working in financial services for 9 years already.
Almost a decade.
Yeah, man. Time flies. For anyone in the industry, I have my CFA designation. I have my KAIA designation. I work at a multi-trillion-dollar asset manager. I'm a research analyst, but in my prior role, I was a research analyst / co-PM on a model portfolio team. I mean, we managed $500 million in assets. I got experience. I'm not one to rub it in people's faces because I realize, at the end of the day, there's huge, much more, successful people than me out there. And I'm still working to get to that level. And you got to stay humble. You got to stay grounded. I'm just in this because I love it and because I want to help people. I want to spread knowledge and I want to just, be a positive influence on the space, right? I'm not in it for self-interest. I make enough money where I'm fine.
Before we were chatting a lot about mindset, and I think this ties into a lot of things in terms of people's behavior in NFTs. For myself and those that don't know, what is behavioral finance?
Behavioral finance, it's essentially the study of the effects of, psychology on investors and how they behave in the markets. Behavioral finance, pretty much the thesis behind it is that, investors, they're irrational. They act on emotions, and rather than just being completely objective and being rational and making calculated, methodical decisions, they often make their financial decisions based on emotions and biases that, they can be emotional biases, cognitive biases.
That doesn't sound like anybody I've heard in NFTs making emotional decisions buying, right?
It refers a lot to trading over investing, though, I find,
It's great that you mentioned that, Johnny, because trading is probably the most emotional aspect of the markets. Let's even go a step backwards. It's financial markets are a construct of humans, right? We made them. So they're going to exhibit the same behaviors and tendencies that humans exhibit because it's a man-made construct, Mm-hmm. You don't have animals trading currencies, right? You don't you don't go to the Serengeti and you see a lion trading two zebras to the hippo, right?
It's 3 zebras, bro. I only take 3 zebras.
3 zebras for 1 hippo. Okay. Do we have 4?
That was a dope thing you just said, my man. Like you just said, a lot of things are emotional, and with emotion comes kind of maybe sometimes bad judgment.
The thing with emotions, right, is sometimes the best decision is to go against your emotions, right? People tend to exhibit herd mentality. When everyone's buying, it's a signal that, hey, it's safe to buy now, right? Because everyone else is buying. So I'm going to follow the herd. And this goes way back to BC times, where in order for us to survive, right, we were in herds, we worked together. We kind of, our instincts are to follow the herd and to stick together in a pack to ensure our survival. So when you see other people doing something, your instincts are to do that, right? You want to be a part of the group. You want to ensure your survival. So at the core base instincts of humanity is to follow the herd. But in trading, it's almost like you have to go against the herd at times in order to be successful.
It's funny because there is in NFTs, right, inherently there's trading, people buying at one point, having entries, exits, right? But at the same time, we're dealing with people trying to build communities and have value amongst each other. And there's kind of that divide where it's the trading and the emotion that carries, it bleeds out into the community and kind of, it fractions your community. And so if we can build a strong enough community where people are just holding, they're not worried about the USD value of this thing right now. I'm worried about the community value, right? I'm not selling my Stone Ape because it brought me so much community value. That's where the power, and I feel like the overall gem is.
That's a fantastic point, right? Because I don't think in history we've ever had investments that were so ingrained in the social aspect of the investment, right? Like you go and you buy a Apple stock. I mean, unless you're a very large shareholder, you have very little say in the management of the company. You're not really attending the shareholder meetings. You own a few shares of Apple, like big deal. But you buy into an NFT project, you have an opportunity to connect with people who are like-minded individuals like yourself. You have an opportunity to grow and see things through and get in at this very early stage seed-like investment.
We're getting communities growing, and that's the difference that I'm seeing. And you feel like you might be getting part of a community in the crypto world, but there's nothing like the NFT world. And now we're finding that people who missed the boat when the all-time highs were hitting in the good NFT projects like 3 months ago, they're all getting entries back in, and the communities are starting to get really strong. And I think that's like the cool part of the NFT world. You know what I mean?
That's priceless. Having a community is priceless, right? Like the value in trading NFTs might be speculative because it might be dealing with the FOMO, how much hype there is, how much FUD there is. But the value in a community is priceless. And for me, that's what I'm into NFTs for, like building a community or being a part of a community that, people share the same interests and values and goals and want to see something go in the same direction.
This is a very frontier emerging space, right? And sometimes the most value you can gain from this is like the knowledge and the connections and the experience rather than flipping a couple dollars here or there, stacking a little soul. We're trailblazers here, right?
I'll ask you guys this question then. The NFT market is so almost manipulated in prices. How does an outsider see the value of what you're speaking about, which is the community? How does that shine through into the actual price of the NFTs?
That's a great question, right? How do you translate that value? It's intangible. It's very hard to quantify the value there without actually having experienced it.
I'll talk about Stone Days. I've been in the Stone Day Discord quite a lot recently, and it's crazy how many people have been blown away. People are coming in and they're chatting, and then all of a sudden they're buying a new tape and they're like unbelievably stoked whenever they get like completely rated.
At a base level, bro, we all desire, connection and to be heard and recognized. I recognize the power of having that community. If I have 100 people worldwide that rock with me, that's powerful. And it goes beyond like a dollar amount.
Lovely to hear it. Going back to the behavioral finance, how does that play into investing for people in NFTs? That community you guys are talking about really has an intangible and you could argue an infinite value. That's really what it's all about. It's all about love more than it is about money.
The best thing you could do is invest in something you love. Like it's not a crypto or a stock, like where you're like, okay, they do a good amount of sales and their debt is low. Nah, this is like, I love Stone Apes. Like they talking about Amsterdam. I was just in Amsterdam. They smoke weed. I like that. Like,
yeah, to build on that point, like completely agree with that. Like you said, you gotta love it. You gotta feel like this is something you want to be a part of, right? Regardless of whether it goes to 0 or 1 million. Like I talk about the behavioral finance thing and kind of intertwining that with what you were saying, Gandalf, right? When you go on social media, all you see is people flaunting their success. Like you see people posting bored apes, people posting their dead gods, people posting how much ETH they got in their wallet, which floors am I sweeping today, right? Everybody just flexes. So
but never the failures though.
It's very fabricated as well. Like you said, never the failures, never the lessons. People are really, in my opinion, sometimes focusing on a lot of the wrong things. Like what determines success to a person? You can never compare yourself to somebody else. And so many people are almost being taught to do that. You have to always compare yourself to yourself and how you're becoming a better person every day. And if that's bringing you joy, great.
If I'm better than I was yesterday, then mission complete.
The definition of success, I suppose, is up to each individual. Coming into the space, like you were saying, Jimmy, with what floors do I sweep and all that, I'm not that involved with it. I don't know if people actually go ahead and do that stuff or if it's just for a couple of likes and retweets for an ego
Right.
boost, or
Right.
you know, maybe a bit of both, and people have to figure that out for themselves. To me, that isn't necessarily a real life success. That's very fabricated. I just made huge profit and I decided to do this for my community in real life. And that would be more
Right.
impressive to me. That I think outlies a larger aspect of society, is what we really determine as, oh, this person's successful.
Right. And that's how Instagram and social media works now, where it's like, I have to attain the thing I don't have. I see it on my screen. I need that. Right. I'm nothing without, we already like kind of set ourselves up to fail, because the thing you're trying to chase isn't the community. It's not the knowledge, right? To better yourself and provide a skill, or maybe even get into the game and do something else. No, it's, oh, I need that Lambo. When we get in the bag, I'm from New York, yo, that's a bunch of dudes on the street right now doing the same thing. It's crazy. So psychologically, it's like, yeah, we're all kind of being tailored. Our brain is being fit to believe that that shit is the way.
It's up to the individual, I suppose, to decide what path they want to take. Does what you're speaking about kind of shine a light on the easy influence that people allow others to have on their own life? You have to focus on what you can control. And when you have other people making decisions for you, that sometimes isn't always going to be what's best for you.
They'll tell everyone when Bitcoin's at 69K that it's the best thing in the world, and people will be buying it, right? And then right now, like, I had to turn off Trevor Noah the other day, because like he was just basically badmouthing NFTs. He was saying, if you thought Bitcoin were the best at 69K, you've now lost 90% or whatever. And I'm like, well, this is when you should buy and then take profits, when you guys are telling everyone to buy it. You know what I mean? Like, blows my mind that like that's what's really controlling people. It's not just us. The media use reverse psychology all the time, and it's crazy that it goes on all the time.
Listen, man, I'll tell you something that an old player told me on the street, man. New York, shout out to New York. If people on a low end, right, are manipulating people to give their money up, why wouldn't it happen on a large end, right? If there's shillers and influencers on Twitter that can fool you into buying and selling certain things, why wouldn't the media be doing that?
Well, is it up to the individual then to figure out who they want to listen to?
You might not believe this, but everybody else is walking this path. Okay, let me see what's up. If everyone's doing it, right? It's a lot of that psychologically. It's like if everyone's walking this way, well, it can't be an outcast, right? It must be right. It's got to be right. Sometimes you got to go against the grain.
Well, historically, success is found going against the grain. What are people's mindset when they join a community? Are they joining for a quick fix, or are they looking for building a relationship with people like we see in so many communities? For us and for people out there, it's to give them a platform, showcase their talent, give them a platform to maybe speak about, like we do, issues of mindset and things we see going on in this space. Because as it grows, I think the people in the space have a responsibility to almost help guide where it grows.
I think that's the difference between like the social media aspect of NFTs and crypto, is that you really have to be in Discord. And then as soon as you're in Discord, you're in a smaller community. You're not on Facebook with billions of people posting to try and get likes. You know what I mean? You're basically posting, and everyone else who's there is there for the same reasons. And you all talk about what you want to get out of that project.
I do feel like some of Twitter is bad for NFTs. I will say that some of the shit posting, some of that FUD, so that people don't buy so I could buy.
You know, it's the same as what I'm saying about the media. Like the media will say, buy Bitcoin when it's 69K. Like an influencer is going to tell you to buy bears when they're at 250. So
for new people coming in, how do they know who to listen to?
I think the best advice for someone is to not buy it right away, and just to kind of watch for a while.
Feel it out.
Join a community just to see what the community is like, see what a Discord is like, you know, stuff like that.
And I see Stone Ape, I'm like, okay, Amsterdam, weed bar, let me get into this. But because I enjoyed it now, not because I thought it was going to bring me some money. I was like, okay, let me mint this because I genuinely like what's going on. That would be my advice to somebody, right? Like, yo, just buy something. If you like what's going on there, and you see like, okay, long term, maybe it's going to provide value to you. You can provide value to it. Like, let's do something.
I really agree with your points. You know, don't dive in immediately. No rational person would buy into any investment without doing their research. You feel the FOMO more with NFTs because of that social media presence and because you see people making all this money.
We were talking earlier about perceived value in an NFT project, and one of the biggest values you can get is community and what each person brings to the table in real life into that community. That's worth 100 soul right there. You know what I mean?
Everything that people were able to disconnect and build is amazing. That's where the value is, man, with the community. But the value, like you said, what perceived value? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the perceived value from the outside. If you're just a trader and investor going, is that project doing well? They can't see
Right.
everything we're talking about. So how does a project show that to new people coming in?
Right. How do you keep that hype going?
I think now, later on, it's going to be the way that everything is tokenized, right? So eventually people are going to have NFTs as passes to get them into certain venues or to go to certain concerts.
Right. And of course, your art being dope, if your art is dope, and having that community, that's the backbone.
It gives people a platform to highlight their talents. You mentioned earlier, though, about like hype, and I'm thinking it's less about hype, but more of the true value. How does a project achieve the perceived value of their brand?
I think it takes time too, right? Like they're so new. It might just take a little bit of time.
The brightest flame burns quickest.
You know, those are some awesome points. People say, how are you going to create a brand? Their vision is to create a lifestyle brand. The question is how? And they pretty much state how they're going to do it. It's a balance between balancing the short term and the long term. In the short term, they express that the market decides the winners by voting on them, which basically means that hype will always win in the short term. But in the long term, the market chooses winners by weighing them, which means they weigh the value, the relative value of owning a project. If you're able to create hype in the short term while also deliver value over the long run course of the project, your project will survive.
Pretty sure you'll find every brand has had to work really, really freaking hard to make it. You know, that's just the way it is.
It's like it takes time, it takes work, and it takes the people that want to be a part of that brand, right? You can't have a brand if nobody wants this. Nobody's buying into it. No one believes in it.
Brand is community.
I'd love to hear people's thoughts on, you know, these brand projects. I really think that people are getting caught up in this brand meta. They're definitely overestimating their probability of success, which goes back to other behavioral biases.
I agree 100%. I think it goes back to real quick what you said about the long term and that relative value. Show me the people that really ride this, put this on their back, and people tattooing 333, like that's a brand. I feel like it takes time, it takes momentum, and the hype is the short term. And we'll see if you make it out to become a brand. We'll see if you build that up. But it takes people and it takes that energy that's like, oh man, I ride for this. I'm a part of this. This is me and I am it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. That makes perfect sense because the brand is the community. It's not up to the project to say like, hey, we got a brand. We'll know if you got a brand because we'll know the brand.
Right, exactly. People will be shouting it from the rooftops.
Especially in NFTs, it's quite important to have a face behind the brand, or like at least a person. It doesn't have to be the actual face, but like a person behind the brand so that people have an association with it. And I feel like the projects that are working well have that. If you see someone who actually gives a shit and the person that's in charge of the projects going out there and actually talking about everything and they answer everyone's question, or they try to, then you're pretty confident that that's going to be a pretty good project. Well, I think anyway, that's the way I look at it.
I think people need that figurehead in a project, but I think people also need to understand it isn't one project doing something. I think it's necessary, but do you guys think it actually adds to the perceived value of a project?
Could help the value, yeah. It's like, you know, if you do a good job at, hey, I'm building something for us, I want everybody to be a part of that, people will feel that. If you're genuine, they rocking with it.
Well, that goes back to the beginning of behavioral finance. With everything we've spoken about already today, can you take the emotion out of buying NFTs? Because obviously community is emotional.
You can't take the emotions out of NFT investing. You can't take it out of any investing. Whenever money is attached to your livelihood, there will be emotions involved. So no, you can't take it out. You just have to be more aware of them and be more present and understand them so that you can handle and control your decisions regardless of how your emotional state is.
That's 100% true, man. If you think there's money in front of you, like what will you do? Even cabbies, right? If you think about a cab driver, if you see that person hailing, it's like you might cut the guy off. I don't want to miss that money. You know, I've seen it myself. It's like your livelihood, like you said, is tethered to this. I need this. We got to move instantly.
Well, I think that cab issue is certainly something you see more in New York.
All day. I looked out the window and saw that example, bro. Like the Uber cut the dude off because why? This is the money. And it's like almost like a drug. This is necessary.
There's no taxis where I live.
Right. What do they got? Bobsleds up there, Johnny?
Moose. Yeah, Johnny doesn't take the bus. He just gets a moose to pick him up.
Bro, if I could wake up and snow, like, all right, I'm getting on the sled now. Getting on the snowboard. Like, that's crazy. Oh, bro, it's awesome. I think it's amazing. Everybody comes from a different place in life, has different experience, right? But we can come together and share that. It's the dopest shit ever.
Well, it's been good chatting finance and mindset and the markets with you, gents.
Yes, sir.
Yep, man. It's good.
Yeah.
Bro.
Well, Jimmy, thanks for chatting with us, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was an awesome conversation. Y'all have really good perspectives too. I appreciate having other, well-grounded people to discuss this with.
Can't wait to rewatch this and re-listen to this. There's so much value. I'm so serious. I get so much value, bro.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and take notes again. Puff,
Puff,
puff.
puff, big puff.
Yeah, puff, puff.
Salute.
Yeah, let's get it.
Puff, pass that vibe. Stone apes get high. Puff, puff, we like. Puff, puff, pass that vibe. Stone apes get high. Puff, puff, we like. Puff, puff, pass that vibe.